AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
And off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR, presented by Decision Critical, Concierge Nursing. I'm Matt.
This is Shaq O'Neal, and I hate Matt.
Paul O'Neal.
They're chanting Paul O'Neal's name.
You, sir. And Mr. Toby Tom Play. All right, we're here. Glad you are as well. Get out there and make it a good one. Kendall Rogers coming up here in 15 minutes from right now. We will talk to Sean Kelly, the voice of the Florida Gators, in hour number 2. Fletcher Mackel from WDSU in hour 3. Ton to do. Let us begin as we do every single day.
It's time to pop the top on another edition of AFR with Bud Light. Drink easy.
Never born around here, y'all. That's for certain. So it's been a pretty wild week around LSU football. We know the Vanity Fair piece dropped on Monday. Lane Kiffin's comments where he referenced segregation and recruiting against Ole Miss. The firestorm subsequent, Lane Kiffin apologized a day later. And today, there's a piece at USA Today from Blake Topmeyer where he had a sit down with LSU Athletic Director Verge Ausberry, where Verge is defending Lane Kiffin. Not altogether surprising to that end that the athletic director would defend the coach he hired. Maybe a little surprising the manner in which he did it, because Verge chose to defend Lane Kiffin by attacking his predecessor, Brian Kelly. Now, I know how a lot of you perceive me when we talk about Brian Kelly, that I'm a BK defender. I will defend some of Brian Kelly's time and record here because he did a lot of good things. He had 2 10-win seasons. He won an SEC West championship. He had a Heisman winner. He won 71% of his games. He just didn't win enough. And at LSU, the expectation is win championships. It's why you have the resources that you have, is to go win championships. He didn't do it. And so he got fired. It doesn't nullify everything that he did well. So with that preface, we'll let you know what Verge said if you haven't seen it by now. And then I want to react to it because there's some of what Verge said that I think there are half-truths baked in, but it's not unanimous truths. Verge said that there was no connection under Brian Kelly, the football program. Specifically, quote, it's going back to the Saban model. That means running the whole program. Then you have to go do some things with alumni and do things with boosters and do things with fundraising with NIL. You have to be a part of that. That's what Lane will do. He'll go out there and have that conversation with the donors and the people who support the program and say, we need your help, and then give them his cell number. Verge goes on. He's not one who will say, okay, I don't want people to contact me. I don't want people to touch me. I don't want people to be around me. That's who we had. That's why we got what we got. There was no feel. There was no connection between the LSU football program, the coach, and the fans. He continued, did Verge. Quote, there was no connection and no building. Not many employees connected. The former players didn't connect. Yeah, I'm saying it. Now former players live over there at the facility. They go over there. We welcome them over there. They work out over there. That's what we want. That's who LSU used to be. Former players came in the weight room. They worked out. There wasn't signing no form to be able to work out or who are you? You can't work out at this time. Few things. I mentioned that I think there are truths to what Verge is saying there. Similar to the truths in what Lane said in the Vanity Fair piece. I don't doubt that some recruits, parents, or grandparents expressed to Lane Kiffin they don't want their child, grandchild going to Oxford, Mississippi. I don't doubt that happened. I don't think it happened often. I don't think it happened regularly. I think there are overwhelmingly more players whose families were excited to have an SEC offer send their son to Ole Miss to go play for Lane Kiffin than whatever number might have mentioned that to Lane Kiffin. Similarly, with what Verge is saying, yes, I have no doubt. Boosters, former players, current players, employees, administrators who did not like the way Brian Kelly ran the football program. And the truth is, no matter if it's a football program, a media company, a grocery chain, whatever, wherever you work, a school, wherever you work, there are people in the organization who like leadership in the organization and don't like leadership in the organization, who like the way things are run and who don't like the way things are run. The part that I would take exception with in how Verge handled this is that he can defend Lane Kiffin without criticizing Brian Kelly. I'm not saying Brian Kelly doesn't warrant criticism. I'm just saying these two things are not mutually exclusive. You can praise Lane Kiffin without criticizing Brian Kelly, because when you have the conversation, like what Verge started here, I can present the other side of it, both ways, about Kiffin and about Kelly. Let's talk about that. Players, okay? Brian Kelly gets fired. Garrett Nussmeier, who was recruited by the former staff, stayed, great Tiger. Nussmeier at the Senior Bowl said this.
I love Coach Kelly. I have a lot of respect for him, and obviously, things didn't work out. I don't think that speaks directly to who Coach Kelly is. I believe he's a very good football coach. Looking forward to whatever situation he takes on next, and definitely rooting for him.
All right. So Garrett Nussmeier strongly defending Brian Kelly. Colin Hurley on Twitter, who had a more tumultuous time at LSU than Hurley, tweeted, "I don't care what anyone has to say about this man. The impact he had on my life is something that can never be taken away from me. He loved me each and every day. He cared for me endlessly through my best days and my worst. I love you, Coach, forever." It's Colin Hurley talking about Brian Kelly. Whit Weeks also put out an Instagram story after Brian Kelly got fired. It was a photo of Brian Kelly and Whit Weeks in the post-game locker room next to each other with their arms around each other. Like, point being, you can find those examples of players who love Brian Kelly. The former player thing that Verge Ausberry talked about there is true. Listen, but that's how it was under Les Miles as well. It was closed off. Ed Ogeron, when he became the interim, was trying to win favor. One of the things he did was immediately open up everything to former players. He instituted the Tiger Walk, where any former player could walk down the hill on game days. Open door policy. Any player could come to practice. Just come on in. No matter what era you played, if you played, come on in. He was trying to win favor, and it worked. Brian Kelly was more regimented, and that's his prerogative as a head coach. It wasn't that you couldn't come in if you were a former player. Just give us a heads up. Let us know if you're coming. Make an appointment, whatever the case may be. And that's his prerogative to run a more structured program. As far as the boosters, there's one in particular, I'm not saying only one, but there's one very prominent LSU booster who stopped giving while Kelly was the head coach. I also know boosters who stopped giving when Ogeron was the coach and when Joe Oliva was the athletic director. And that's not altogether uncommon. I can also point out that a year ago, Brian Kelly put up $1 million of his own money for the $1 million match, and they raised $3.2 million. because donors gave to support Brian Kelly's initiative. There's no bigger supporter of LSU athletics financially than Our Lady of the Lake. Full disclosure, they're our partner. I endorse FMOL, Our Lady of the Lake. Here on Locked on LSU, they're a big client and partner of ours. There is no single bigger supporter financially of LSU athletics than Our Lady of the Lake. They give more than Todd Graves. They give more than Holden Spate. They give more than MMR. They give more than everybody, okay? They probably give more than the next 10 combined. The biggest fundraiser that Our Lady of the Lake has every year was last Thursday. It was their big bash. They had it at the LSU indoor facility. It used to be at the Dow Hangar. Prior to that, it was at the governor's mansion. Will Wade sat at a table next to E.J. Kuiper, the president of FMOL. Was there the whole time. Will Wade. Lane Kiffin, I never saw him. Now, he posted a photo later on social with E.J. Kuiper, sort of insinuating that he was there. And as I was later told, he was in and out in less than 10 minutes. A year ago, Brian Kelly, during the live auction, was on stage. One of the premier auction items was an LSU game day experience. Seats in the head coach's or athletic director's suite for the big game, whatever the big game was. Walk down the hill with the team, run out the tunnel, pregame pass, all that. Brian Kelly was on stage, trying to encourage people to bid, and then ultimately split the item and did two of them. They raised like $80,000. Like, you can't say that he wasn't engaged. Were there people who didn't like him? Sure. Players, boosters, former players, yes. Are there people who felt the same about Ed Ogeron? Yes. Are there people who feel a certain way about Lane Kiffin right now? Yeah, because that's the reality when you deal in a large organization. My feeling is the focus here for Verge and all of LSU athletics should be more on the reasons why you think Lane Kiffin was the right choice and why you think he is going to succeed here. And by the way, there's a lot of people who agree with that sentiment. The last week, we've let you hear from Kirk Herbstreit and Josh Pate and Pete Futak and Brad Crawford and Chris Doring. And we played all these clips of these people. LSU is an 11.5-point favorite over Clemson. There's a lot of people who believe LSU is going to be really good. Focus on the reasons why it was the right hire at the right time instead of contrasting Kelly and Kiffin, which is just unnecessary. The one thing Verge said here that I do completely agree with, however, is at the end of the piece, talked about Lane Kiffin being a lightning rod and people talking about him all the time. And Verge's quote is, every day you talk about us, guess what? That's good for LSU. If they're not talking about you, guess what? That's when you got problems. That's when you got apathy. That's when nobody gives an expletive. When nobody cares, when you're getting your behind beat by A&M by 40, when nobody's watching you. I'd rather be on the opposite side, end quote. And that I completely agree with. And you can talk about Kiffin and LSU football and all those things without digging up and throwing dirt and speaking ill of the dead. This will make the rounds, no doubt, today and until something else pivots. All right, you can let me know your thoughts on it if you want. Email us, tweet us, text us, 225-396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. It's After Further Review. Show Up and Every Day is brought to you by Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light. The official beer of AFR, the official beer of your Fighting Tigers of LSU. Baseball series against Florida opens up tonight out at the box. If you're going to be out at Alec Box Stadium for the final time in 2026, make sure you got plenty of delicious ice-cold Bud Light. Drink easy with the great taste of Bud Light, the official beer of the LSU Tigers. All right, it's After Further Review. Speaking of baseball, Kendall Rogers is here next. Stick around.
AFR.
Remember over at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, if you're military or first responder, they always waive a consult fee. It's always a free consultation over there at Goodwood for our first responders and for our military. You have to have a valid ID, but another way that at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness, they continue to give back. Another reason why it's just a better experience. I mentioned it before, but if you are already on hormone replacement therapy, regardless if you have ED or not. If you're on HRT, I always encourage you at least engage and learn more, because what you're gonna learn is it's time to switch. Whatever, like there's some clinics, some HRT clinics that charge you a membership fee. That's ridiculous. At Goodwood, there's no membership fee. It's always gonna be the lowest prices for your hormone therapy. Never any contracts. And when you do your blood labs every 6 months, Goodwood picks up that expense. So if you're paying for your blood labs $200 every quarter, every 6 months, you can wipe that expense away. YourGoodwood.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalVR.com.
Yeah, it's a little different on this one, and we just have to be mindful. I think, I want the team to be stay in the moment, execute what's in front of you, the pitch, the game, state of mind. It's my job to, kind of set us up for things that are ahead. And, in this case, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I have to do.
Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball, good enough to join us as he does each Thursday. How are you, dude?
I'm doing all right. It feels a little weird to be talking about LSU baseball on May 14th, and we're not talking about, hey, can this team win the national title?
Yeah. Is there any path at all for LSU to earn an at-large bid?
Outside of winning the conference tournament, not really.
Yeah, so that's not an at-large. That would be the auto bid. You win the tournament, you're in.
Yeah, that would be
an
the auto
at-large.
bid. To get an at-large, they would have to sweep this weekend and probably get to Sunday to have a chance.
Do you think that, I'm not even sure that would do it. Would that do it, conceivably?
Yeah, that would give you, 16 conference wins or 16 SEC wins? Yeah, you'd probably be in.
Okay.
That's all you have to do is sweep this weekend
right.
and win 3 games in Hoover.
So
6 games in a row.
Right. I know. The interesting thing about what Jay's doing here is that he's left Friday TBA, which means I'm guessing here, reading between the lines, that he's saving Schmidt for Tuesday. They got to go on a run in Hoover. He knows it. So, what do you think of the decision?
It's probably the only chance you have, and I know that's kind of what they're doing. They're basically putting themselves in a situation where it's going to be really hard to win the Florida series, but it puts them in the best possible position to make a run through the SEC tournament. And here's the thing. I made this comment to somebody the other day. They're like, it would not be the first time that LSU has made a run through Hoover. No matter, what kind of season they had, it's still going to be a very LSU-heavy crowd, I would imagine. I can't imagine people that go every single year all of a sudden going to go, well, I'm not going to go this year.
Right.
They will be there. So I think the big key for me is, number one, I like the idea. Number two, if you're LSU, you can kind of kick things off next week with Schmidt. And let's say you kind of get on the roll a little bit, then all of a sudden you kind of have the crowd behind you. People are kind of feeling it a little bit. So it really is the best possible pathway to be able to get to the NCAA tournament. It's not this weekend. It's doing something in Hoover.
How do the Tigers match up against Florida?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, once again, which Florida team will show up. I do think Florida has played better, since that A&M series. It certainly seems like they're a little bit more balanced since that series. I think one of the big keys this weekend will certainly be, Brendan Lawson. Can he kind of get going offensively for Florida? Ultimately, Florida, when they've struggled this year, it's been when teams have kind of hopped on them early. When that happens, they're not. I don't feel like they're great at kind of clawing their way back. Whereas I do feel like teams have been able to claw their way back against Florida. So I think for LSU, even with holding some arms, you got to find a way to jump on them early. Which I don't think LSU's offense, for the most part, the last couple of weeks has been the primary issue. It has not been the offense.
That is fair to say. It is when it hasn't been one thing, it's been another. But Tigers and Gators this weekend. Have you? I'm sure you've given some thought to this. Why you go back to Mississippi State in 21 post-COVID? Why have the defending champs struggled?
Well, I think it's a lot. I think in college baseball, one thing that's kind of synonymous with a national champion is, you have a massive crop of key players. And I think for LSU, I think the issue, and frankly, it's probably the same way with other teams too. You think back to that Mississippi State team that had Tanner Allen. That was such a key component of that team that they kind of built that whole lineup around. Nothing for LSU was they really struggled with this year, and it's Jake Brown going down was like compounding that. But if you think back to last year, and you think back to the way guys gravitated around like a Jared Jones, like, hey, if things are going really bad, guess who's not going to be really bad? It's that dude. And so I just say LSU this year, and you think back to Tanner Allen with Mississippi State, you think back to Ole Miss with Tim Elko. I mean, and those guys, like the list kind of goes on. And when you don't have that key kind of component in the middle of the lineup or that key component on the pitching staff, when things are going south, there's not that guy to kind of rally around them. I don't feel like LSU and Mississippi State that year after they won it, they did not, neither one of those teams had a guy that you were like, hey, the team is rallying around this dude. Yeah. That just hasn't happened. I think there's something to that. I think the other thing is naturally, whether it's football or baseball or basketball, when you have an older team or you have some guys, guys in key spots like last year with Cade and Ianson, in that 1 and 2 spot, it helps to have upperclassmen with experience who are, by the way, elite arms on the front of that rotation. So I think that's the other thing is, when you win the national title, you're doing it probably because you have guys who are going to get drafted pretty high.
Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball, get him at Kendall Rogers. Georgia's already won the league, so what are the storylines going into this weekend, Kendall? Who has the most at stake?
Yeah, I think the most at stake would probably be the A&M and Mississippi State series. I mean, you talk about two teams that can go different directions. I mean, Mississippi State, the variables there with Mississippi State are kind of wild. I mean, if they win this series, they're still in the mix for top 8. They lose the series, and Ole Miss wins that Alabama series, they could easily be out of a top 16. So I think for Mississippi State, it makes that weekend big. I think for A&M, if they win that series, I think they're locked in the top 8. If they lose that series, they're probably more in the 12 to 14 range in the top 16. So, that's the difference between being at Blue Bell for 2 weeks and being on the road for the second weekend. So that is obviously big. I think Ole Miss and Alabama, for kind of the same reasons with A&M and Mississippi State, Alabama was the top 8 this week. I don't think they're that good, but I mean, the metrics love them. But they were top 8 for us this week. Ole Miss was out of the hosting mix. So again, Ole Miss wins that series. Alabama loses that series. Alabama's probably out of the top 8. Ole Miss probably into the top 16. And then, of course, Arkansas, Kentucky. Arkansas, if they win that series, I mean, I think they're back in the hosting discussion. I would still have them behind Ole Miss just because Ole Miss has played the number 1 strength of schedule intra-conference. But it would put them back in the discussion. And, of course, Kentucky, if they lose that series, I mean, that would be losing 7 out of the last 8 series in conference to end the regular season. I think even with 13 wins, you're not getting in with that.
Okay. What about Vanderbilt against South Carolina? I mean, they're trying to get in the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're done. I mean, even with that RPI, I mean, if they swept that series even at 14 to 16, I still don't think they're getting there. Wow. I mean, the problem with Vanderbilt is kind of twofold. I mean, they struggled in conference, and if you go back to their non-conference weekends, Vanderbilt did not have a single winning weekend in non-conference, and as an SEC team, not going to happen if your RPI is not even close.
Kendall Rogers, D1 Baseball. Have you taken a look? I haven't prepped you for this. Have you taken a look at the SEC tournament bracket and how it'll sort of shape up next week?
I have not, actually. I'm trying to go one day at a time. But
yeah, no worries. It's okay.
It will be interesting to see how things kind of match up. And here's the other thing. I mean, I was kind of having this discussion with Jay the other day, is when you look at the SEC tournament, one thing I think is a advantage for a team like LSU is if you can just get to the non-bye games. So if you can just get to the 1, 2, 3, 4 game, you're playing teams that are more than likely top 8. And so, if you're playing Texas, Dylan Blanton is on a pitch count. If you're A&M and Aiden Sims is out this weekend already, but you already think you're top 8, they're not going to pitch it against LSU. And the same kind of goes to those other teams. They're not going to throw their ace 90 pitches in a tournament game. So I think it'll be really interesting to me to see who LSU is matched up in that potential non-bye game. I think the matchups are really going to matter there. They can get to that point.
Yeah, getting to that point is going to be interesting. Assuming they stick as the 14 seed, right, staying ahead of South Carolina and Missouri, they would play the 11. So I more so just wondering if you'd given it. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I'm not going to say this team can't go on a run at Hoover. I'm not going to say this team's definitely in the postseason or anything. But I mean, there's got to be something in this club. And I mean, if you're LSU and you go to Hoover and it's either win it or get to Sunday or you're going home, I mean, I would expect them to play well.
Yeah. As it stands right now, if LSU is in that 14-11 game on Tuesday, it would be LSU against Tennessee, very likely with Schmidt going. But got to get through this weekend first. Hey, before you go, outside of the league, what are the other big storylines people are keeping an eye on? What weekend series?
Yeah, I think, in terms of the hosting discussion, Boston College hosting Georgia Tech. It's not every day. We talk about BC as a potential host, but if they win that series, they're right there in the mix. I think in the Big 12, TCU against West Virginia, Big 12 being a bubble team, West Virginia really surging right now. I mean, they could end up as a top 8. And then, out of the Sun Belt, keep an eye on Coastal Carolina and against the Raging Cajuns over there in Lafayette. The Cajuns have been sizzling hot over the last couple of weekends, kind of finally putting things together. They're right there in the bubble. And then Coastal Carolina, I mean, they went from a top 8 seed potential to out of our top 16 after losing that series to Old Dominion at home. That is a massive series for both clubs. For Coastal, it's the host. For the Cajuns, it's just to get into the tournament.
Kendall Rogers, D1Baseball.com, D1Baseball.com. Get him at Kendall Rogers. Okay, man, we always appreciate it. Thank you.
You got it, brother. You have a good weekend.
All right, be well, of course. It's After Further Review. We're brought to you by Rouse's, the official supermarket of the Saints. Right now, the 4-day sale is going on over at Rouse's Thursday through Sunday, so it's going on right now where you can save big. How about bone-in value pack pork sirloin chops right now? Limit 2, they're only 98 cents per pound. Y'all, USDA Grade A Sanderson Farms value pack chicken wings, only $1.47 a pound right now. You want to go stock your freezer, you want to load up on your grocery items, the 4-day sale is going on right now at Rouse's Thursday through Sunday. So get on by, get your grocery shopping done at Rouse's, the official supermarket of the Saints, Rouse's.com. Rouse's, this feels like home. All right, we appreciate Kendall for hanging out with us here. We are tracking NFL schedule leaks. The full schedule reveal is tonight at 7 o'clock. So we'll know officially what the Saints schedule will be. We do have a leaks tracker up at LouisianaSports.net right on the homepage if you want to go check that out. We'll run through some of the leaks at the top of hour 2 in about 30 minutes. What we do know, the week 1 schedules have been leaked, and the Saints are going to open the season at Detroit against the Lions. So that's the one. And, of course, we already know they're going to play week 7 in Paris against the Steelers. So some of those things are starting to leak. We got a handful of them already. You can see it for free over at LouisianaSports.net. We'll run through it again here in about a half an hour. All right, it's After Further Review. We'll go around the SEC next.
AFR.
If you're dreaming about that pool, you need Duplessis Pools. DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com. Get to the website. Pools, outdoor kitchens, putting greens. They can turn your outdoor space into your outdoor oasis, your backyard paradise, the place where you want to spend every spring and summer day, where your family and your friends want to come over to hang out poolside at the outdoor kitchen. They can make it a reality. And by the way, they have pool builds that start at less than $50,000 and financing is available. You can do this at Duplessis Pools. They'll build you a beautiful pool that will last. Now, you want the big custom resort style pool, giant, all the bells and whistles, they can do anything you want. And they'll build it beautifully and with a 10-year workmanship warranty. That's no matter what they build. It's time to start. Get to the website and start making your dream a reality. DuplessisPools.com, DuplessisPools.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalVR.com.
It's interesting how the lights in studio reflect off this shirt. So we're presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing, and their logo is kind of like pink, mauve.
I was going to say pink, yeah.
It's pink, but it's not.
It's a light pink.
It's a dull pink.
Dull, that's a better word for it, yes.
Dull pink. But the shirt I'm wearing, you can see it like in person. It's red.
Yeah.
My shirt is red. Like red. it's a red and white checkered pattern, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
white, but like if you look at the red is red.
Mhm.
Yeah. You look at it it looks pink. My shirt
It does look pink because when you said that, I looked at you and I'm like, well, your shirt's fine. But then I looked at the screen. I'm like, nah, I get it. Now I see what he means now. Yep.
looks pink. It's probably all these pink lights in here. But shout out Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Actually, a buddy of mine called me about a week ago and said, hey, my wife's grandmother is elderly. She really needs an IV. They're trying to keep her out of the hospital. She's in her upper 80s. Like, does Decision Critical, will they come and do IVs? I said, absolutely. I gave him Blasia, the owner, even Blasia's number. They texted that not like at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and they set up one of the nurses to go administer an IV. If it's something as simple as that, or blood draws, or maybe you need in-home nursing care for hospice, or maybe you got a new baby at the house and you're just not sleeping, man. Get a nurse from Decision Critical to come watch the baby overnight so you all can be fresh, even if it's one day a week, something like that. No matter what it is, as they always say, it's not just healthcare, it's healthcare for your lifestyle. DecisionCriticalBR.com. DecisionCriticalBR.com. But don't let BR fool you. If you're watching or listening outside of Baton Rouge, their nurses are literally in every corner, anywhere in the state of Louisiana, and they now have a Dallas office as well. DecisionCriticalBR.com. All right, it's after further review. Lane Kiffin's comments earlier this week have certainly been a lightning rod, gotten a lot of attention. Paul Feinbaum was on Get Up here on Thursday, and he's weighing in on Kiffin as well.
It's Lane Kiffin, and the most important thing to factor in here, this wasn't a slip of the tongue. I talked to the writer who did the Vanity Fair piece the other day. He said he didn't even ask Kiffin about the racism aspect of it. Kiffin just started riffing, and this is Kiffin trying to wipe Ole Miss off the face of the earth. He is still very bitter at them, even though they're the jilted lover. He's bitter at them, Greeny, because they wouldn't let him coach in the playoffs. And he has to recruit against them, and he also has to play against them on September 19th, a game that will gain a little bit of attention.
I think there's some truth to that. I don't know about the bitterness because they wouldn't let him coach. I do think Lane Kiffin, one of the things we've talked about a lot. Now, I've covered Lane Kiffin for 6 months, but something you've heard me say is that he is very thoughtful. And I don't mean thoughtful like considerate of the feelings of others. I mean thoughtful in that he thinks a lot about what he says, what the impact is going to be, how it's going to land. I mean, he was asked a question. I remember it was Garland Gillen who asked him the question at a press conference about the $40 million roster. And Lane went on like a 2.5-minute tangent talking about strength of schedule. Had nothing to do with the question that was asked. Whatever Lane wants, the message he wants to get across, he's going to get across. I do believe he intended to say that with the intention of making the swipe at Ole Miss. The question is why. And maybe there's some dirty recruiting going on behind the scenes from both sides. And maybe that was Lane's shot across the bow, sort of in a retaliatory way. Interesting. No love lost there, obviously. All right, it's after further review. We are glad to have you aboard with us. We're brought to you by Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. Windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades. Relief Windows and ReliefWindows.com. It's a great time right now to call Relief Windows. Remember, when they come out, they're always going to measure twice, install once. Maybe you live in a neighborhood that requires wood windows, and as a result, you're replacing windows every 4, 6, 8 years, whatever it may be. Do it once, be done forever. At Relief Windows, they have these energy-efficient replacement windows, these wood windows that are from composite that come with a lifetime warranty. It's not a punchline. It's a lifetime warranty on wood windows, only from Relief Windows. Windows, doors, siding, shutters, and shades, Relief Windows, and ReliefWindows.com. Archie Manning, by the way, arguably the most famous Ole Miss football alum, did respond to Lane Kiffin, and he said, this was an interview with Chris Lowe on 3. Archie said, quote, I'm very proud of my school. My school had to make changes years ago and did. I know so many people who send their kids to Ole Miss and have a great experience. It's my school and always will be. Of course, not only Archie, but Cooper and Eli, all Ole Miss grads. So interesting that Steve Sarkisian, the Texas coach, took a swipe at Ole Miss, and his quarterback, Arch Manning, that's his dad, uncle, and grandfather who all went to Ole Miss. Maybe tough to have that conversation for the two of them afterwards. in any event. All right, it's After Further Review. We do it every day about this time. Let's go around the SEC.
Around the SEC, bringing you the biggest news from the nation's best conference, the Georgia Bulldogs.
Safety Jamarlee Riddle has been arrested on a pair of felony charges, possession of a controlled substance, and this one's going to shock you, misdemeanor speeding charges. It's on brand. It's on brand. It's on brand. Ding. Riddle transferred to Georgia after playing his first 2 seasons at East Carolina. 2 seasons with the Pirates, had 133 tackles. So good player. A little legal trouble in front.
The Tennessee Volunteers.
VCU transfer Christian Furman has committed to Tennessee basketball. 6'10", 225-pounder. Played in 4 games for the Rams this past year due to a personal matter, which played in 86 games over the prior 3 seasons. Shot 54% from the floor. He's the 8th addition to the Vols transfer class.
The Texas Longhorns.
Swingman Dalen Swain will remain in the NBA draft. The junior was contemplating returning to Texas, but ultimately, after an impressive first season with the Horns, where he earned SEC Newcomer of the Year honors, leading Texas in scoring at 17 points per game, also led Texas in rebounding, assists, steals, and minutes played. A junior began his career at Xavier, but he will remain now in the draft.
The Arkansas Razorbacks.
Arkansas has reinstated the men's and women's tennis programs. Hunter Yurchek announced that the programs would be shuttered at season's end. That was back on April the 24th. Well, now here on Thursday, Yurchek said the move to discontinue the programs was after an extensive financial analysis, but now with multiple stakeholders and an influx of donations, they have reversed course and will reinstate both programs.
The Vanderbilt Commodores.
And how about this for a creative NIL deal? Nate Bargatze, yes, that Nate Bargatze, landed Vanderbilt quarterback Jared Curtis a movie role as part of an NIL deal. So Curtis, the 5-star plus quarterback who flipped from Georgia to Vanderbilt. I mean, only in 2026 in this era could that ever happen. But Bargatze made a pitch to Curtis live on College Game Day last season, if you remember that. And since then, he's put Curtis into a movie as part of his NIL deal. So the movie is called The Breadwinner, and we'll see what Curtis's small part will be. He was the number 2 quarterback in the class of 2026. All right, there you have it. That is Around the SEC. Thursday shows are presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. It's not just healthcare. Healthcare for your lifestyle. DecisionCriticalBR.com. All right, y'all, let's knock out our final break of hour number 1. We'll come back. We will get to, after the top of the hour, in about 16 minutes, the NFL schedule leaks. There's a handful of Saints games that have already been leaked. So we'll go through that and what I think it matters. Some significant things there. We also have the early line on Saints-Lions in Week 1. We'll get to that again in about 15 minutes from right now. One of the personnel decisions we're keeping a close eye on is what happens with Cam Jordan. Well, the idea of Cam Jordan leaving New Orleans and landing somewhere else in the NFC South, let's just go ahead and say that will not happen, according to Cam Jordan's Twitter. We'll get into that as we continue on AFR.
After further review.
We're brought to you by the Watermark and the Renaissance. Watermark Downtown, Renaissance Southtown. Watermark Baton Rouge's premier hotel property. Voted by you the best hotel in the best of 225. It is a gorgeous luxury property, Watermark Baton Rouge. And I'm going to tell you, whether you're looking for somewhere to maybe a little staycation in town, pop on in, get your room at Watermark Baton Rouge, eat at the Gregory. You can walk up and down 3rd Street with the restaurants and bars, see all the history that downtown Baton Rouge has to offer, State Capitol, Lowell State Capitol, the USS Kid, everything, the casinos downtown. Great spot downtown. You can go stay there conveniently at the corner of 3rd and Convention at Watermark Baton Rouge. Or maybe you have an event coming up. Maybe you got a board meeting you want to host. The old bank vaults down underneath the hotel, when you take that big marble staircase, they've hollowed out those bank vaults and they've turned them into conference rooms for private dining and different meeting rooms. You got to check it out. Downtown, Watermark, Baton Rouge.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Decision Critical Concierge Nursing. Healthcare for your lifestyle. Learn more at DecisionCriticalBR.com.
think it's a safe assumption that if Cam Jordan is not back with the New Orleans Saints, he is not going to land in the NFC South. Someone on Twitter said, I will laugh my behind off if the Falcons sign him, as a quote tweet to Cam Jordan. And Cam Jordan replied to that tweet with a gif of Jim Carrey and Liar Liar when he's all disheveled after, beating himself up in the bathroom, and he's doing the gag throw up motion. I think it's a pretty good. If that wasn't enough to convince you that Cam Jordan is not going to end up with the Atlanta Falcons, he did clarify in another tweet after somebody else essentially alluded to the same thing, and Cam Jordan said, exactly, Dirty Birds, ? Not on this generation of Jordan's watch. So, safe to say Cam Jordan, if he is not back with the New Orleans Saints, will not be in the NFC South, certainly not with the Atlanta Falcons. Remains one of the really interesting storylines and topics that we will discuss throughout the remainder of this offseason is what happens with Cam Jordan and Alvin Kamara. If you were not here a day ago, we had former Saint Scott Shanley, who, of course, played with the Saints and now is an analyst for the Saints on their game day content. And Shanley's opinion was that neither Cam or Alvin Kamara will be back. And it was interesting that his feeling was that of the two, the more likely to be back would be Cam. And that's interesting because Alvin is still under contract. But the Saints, use that cockamamie restructure. I shouldn't say cockamamie, but one of the very seldom used restructure technique. And I think it stands to reason they wouldn't have gone to that length to restructure Alvin Kamara's contract that provides them the out if they didn't intend to use the out. Cam is an unrestricted free agent. I mean, he's free to sign with anybody, whomever he wants. And he has said repeatedly the Cents, C-E-N-T-S, have to make sense, S-E-N-S-E. And it's just abundantly clear the Saints are not willing to give him what it is that he wants. So they're at an impasse. Now, Mickey Loomis, when he was asked about Cam Jordan being back, I think this was an interview on Sirius XM, said this.
Yeah, listen, we've had good conversations with Cam, and we'll continue to have that, and hopefully he's back with us for, I don't know, what is it, the 200th year of his career here. No, I mean, Cam has meant so much to our franchise, and he's had just a great career, and I'd be really excited if the Saints were the only team that he ever played for. So hopefully we can make that happen.
Well, it's very clear that they are at an impasse where Cam wants something the Saints are not willing to provide. I think it's, and I'll repeat it again, and Shanley had a really good opinion on this a day ago. If you missed that interview, Scott's always fantastic. I would highly recommend you go check that out on demand, podcast or YouTube. If you just search AFR Saints on podcast or YouTube, you'll find it there. But I think the most interesting part of that was Shanley saying, it's just clear that the new coaching staff is weeding out all of the Peyton and Dennis Allen era guys. And that's Demario Davis, and we all assume now that Taysom Hill has played his last game in New Orleans. Cam and Alvin are still sort of lingering there. They're bringing in their guys, and it's a new day, a new culture, and they're getting younger. And you have aging veterans that want a lot of money they're not willing to pay. And the point I have made and will continue to make is if you were not willing to pay Demario Davis, there is no way they're going to be willing to pay a multi-year guaranteed deal to Cam Jordan or Alvin Kamara. It's just Demario was still producing. The last 2 years were the most productive years of his career. And if you're not willing to pay that guy on a multi-year deal with guarantees, then it just doesn't make sense that you would do it for Alvin or Cam Jordan, who have been declining players. And I know Cam had 10.5 sacks last year, something that's been brought up a lot. He's also playing about 50% of your defensive snaps, and he had been declining for 3 years before last season. So it stands to reason last year was the exception, not the rule. That was the outlier. It's more likely he reverts to what he had been as a regressing player. Listen, he's one of the greatest players in the history of the Saints organization. I believe he will be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. He will be in the Saints Ring of Honor, and all of that is so warranted. But you don't offer contracts based on what happened you offer based on what you're projecting them to do. And it's hard to value that with Cam Jordan. All right, it's after further review. We're brought by the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020, 924-2020, or WilliamsonEye.com. Remember, eye care, eyewear, eye surgery. You want to schedule your annual eye exam, you can do it at the Williamson Eye Center. They got locations all over Greater Baton Rouge, so go to WilliamsonEye.com. If you are interested in updating or filling your glasses or contacts prescription, they can do that for you at the Williamson Eye Center. But if you want to get rid of those contacts or glasses forever, just have that consultation with Dr. Blake Williamson. Go through those steps and realize how you can change your life by ditching the contacts and glasses forever. It's the Williamson Eye Center. WilliamsonEye.com. Williamson, EYE.com. Okay, y'all. SportsCenter's coming up. Saints schedule leaks right after the top of the hour.
After further review.
Love telling you about Arco Power Systems. Man, what a great Louisiana business that actually serves a multi-state territory. Arco Power Systems, based right here in Baton Rouge. Man, their office, awesome facility right there on Airline near I-12. But they serve all of Louisiana, east to Mobile, west to San Antonio, north to Little Rock. I mean, draw a big circle. If your business is anywhere in that footprint, I know so many of you listen or watch online. You stream us, you watch on YouTube, you listen on demand on the app. You're outside of our footprint. Maybe you're on, you listen to us in Alexandria, Lafayette, Lake Charles, and any of our great affiliates. If you're outside of Baton Rouge, great. Call Arco Power Systems. ARCCO, Arco.com, Arco.com, Arco.com. They will sell, service, install, rent an industrial Generac generator. So storm comes, power out at your business, you never have to worry. Arco.com, ARCCO, Arco.com.